Welcome to 3CX as a Service with ProSBC, our 24th monthly webinar covering technical, business, and partner topics to help service providers and enterprises build better voice networks. I'm Alan Percy, TelcoBridges CMO, and thrilled to have you join us today. Unified Communications as a Service, or UCaaS, is a relatively new opportunity for service providers, making complete business communication solutions available for virtually anywhere and billed on a monthly basis, without the cost of on-premises equipment. The OpEx model makes UCaaS extremely popular with growing and distributed companies. One of the popular software providers enabling the UCaaS market is 3CX, an open standards communication solution. Service providers are discovering that deploying 3CX as a service is an excellent opportunity to grow their business, bring new business class UCaaS to a range of vertical markets and geographies. And as we'll show today, TelcoBridges ProSBC offers a valuable set of capabilities to make hosted 3CX implementation secure, avoid on-premises CPE, is easy to manage, and the subscription-based business model makes scaling easy and affordable. So stick around as we're joined by Matt Ussery, CIO and founder of Austen Consultants, and take a closer look at how he built his successful hosted cloud service based on 3CX and ProSBC. So let's start out with a quick look at the agenda for this session. First, we'll do a few introductions and get to know Matt and his company. We'll share some market trends driving the UCaaS growth and discuss some of the challenges in building UCaaS businesses. And then we'll share an overview of Matt's implementation of hosted 3CX and ProSBC. And then we'll wrap up with a demonstration of Matt's system and leaving some time for Q&A. Okay, time for some introductions. I'm Alan Percy. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for TelcoBridges and today's event moderator. And joining us today from Fort Worth, Texas is Matt Ussery. He's the CIO and founder of Austen Consultants. And thanks, Matt, for your contributions and bringing your story to the discussion.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
We're doing excellent and looking forward to today's topic.
Yeah, we're looking forward to sharing our knowledge of what we've done with 3CX and TelcoBridges, and wanted to give a shout out to Greg Stein with 3CX as well.
Great. Yeah, very good. I know, matter of fact, we got some great VIPs on the call here. I'll share with you in a second. We have looking at the pre-registration, we always have a few new contacts have joined us, and so just a couple quick introductions. One of them is I wanted to introduce TelcoBridges. We're a manufacturer of telecommunications gateways and SBC software, founded 2002 with roughly 40 employees based on our headquarters in Montreal. We do all the development for the hardware and software in our facility in Montreal, and that's the group there in that photograph. They produce some really high quality, large scale media gateways and session border controller solutions. A very dedicated team with sales and support offices in Poland, Turkey, and Hong Kong. And that gives us an opportunity to provide 24/7 technical support as an option for a lot of the products. And Matt, would you do us a favor and just give a quick intro of Austen Consultants?
Sure. So we were established in 2015 from a group of data center architects. I'm the president, CIO of Austen Consultants, located in Fort Worth, Texas, if everybody knows where Texas is. Our expertise has primarily been in data center infrastructure, networking, firewalls, basically anything infrastructure related. We're not an MSP. We represent 3CX, TelcoBridges. We're a VMware partner. We do hosted VDI as a service using Citrix. And we're also a Palo Alto Networks partner. We have a diverse staff of engineers, ranging from voice to firewalls to network. And we currently host about 2,500 extensions and all our systems are on 3CX currently. We're also a SIP trunk provider going through interop tests with 3CX, and we're a platinum and solutions provider partner for 3CX.
Awesome. Very good. Well, I'm glad you were able to join us today. This is going to be a great story.
Yeah, we're excited.
Great. All right. Well, I wanted to start with just a couple trends in the UCaaS market, and the first one is from our friends at Frost & Sullivan. And Elka, I see you on the call, so thanks for joining. And the one of the things we've got from a report from Frost & Sullivan, 82% of North American technology decision makers are moving or planning to move parts or all of their enterprise telephony to the cloud by the end of 2019. So far, this seems to be holding true from all the analyst reports that I've taken a look at. And backing that up is a report from Fortune Business Insight, the Global Unified Communications as a Service, UCaaS market size is projected to reach $36 billion US by 2026. Obviously a huge market opportunity and an area of much investment, to say the least. So I wanted to talk also about what our vision was in how TelcoBridges plans on participating in the UCaaS marketplace with a couple of use cases, and then we'll get into Matt's story and all the rest of it. But when we were looking at the space and trying to figure out how do we add value, and this is where we anticipate ProSBC fits in a typical UCaaS, and this is where you've got either work at home or remote agents or remote users of a UCaaS platform, working over the internet and likely wanting to use SIP over TLS or SRTP to secure their communications from their remote location into a cloud-based UCaaS application. The SBC lands those SIP over TLS and SRTP sessions, provides protection to the application and privacy to those conversations. And lastly, has to manage the NAT traversal, because most everyone has some kind of network address translation in their router, in their home office or their small branch office or the business. So the UCaaS application has to deal with that NAT traversal. So this is the access side of a UCaaS application, which is one of the two use cases. Another scenario is on the trunk side. So the UCaaS applications obviously want to be able to make and receive telephone calls out into the greater world. And they generally like to be able to provide access to either inbound toll-free, possibly inbound DIDs, either from local service providers or maybe internationally providing DIDs in other countries, or just international low-cost outbound calling. So the SBC, again, providing protection to the application, but more importantly, probably providing interoperability. Each one of these kinds of service providers have a little different flavor of SIP, and there's little things that need to be tweaked to improve the, to provide the connectivity. And then lastly, providing route and traffic management on outbound traffic. As the traffic leaves the UCaaS application, does it go out to which international operator? Should it go out to the local operator? And those kinds of things. So those are the two key use cases we see. And you'll see in today's discussion with Matt, he's actually leveraging both of these two use cases in his deployment. All right, so let's move on to the nitty gritty. And we're going to talk to Matt about his story. And we've set this up kind of as an interview. We've obviously spent some time talking to each other. And I prepared a handful of questions that Matt will answer. And this will give us a little bit of background. So I'm going to start, Matt, with the challenges. And first of all, I think there's a great story about how you came to work with 3CX. I know you were in network design before that, and all of a sudden you got involved in a 3CX project.
Yes, I never, ever wanted to be a phone guy. I was like, after looking at Cisco phones and the complexity of, call manager and all the different functions and servers that you had to have. I mean, we're Cisco networking people, but, Cisco Nexus stuff. But we had a school district that had a Cisco system that we had upgraded several times with one of our voice engineers that I contracted. It was going to cost him something like 55 grand to upgrade the system. So he's like, hey, I found this 3CX product. Could you help me download it and get it going and let's test it out? So that's what we did. Then he ended up saying, hey, can you host this for me? I'm like, well, possibly. Let me look into it. So we ended up getting some colo space in Dallas, and that's where we got our start, was with that small school district with about 300 extensions.
That's great. When that leads right to the next question, right? Which is, what were some of the issues you ran into with hosting 3CX?
So 3CX is an awesome product. It's great, but it has some of the same issues that many other systems have, like Asterisk or Cisco or FreeSwitch or anybody else. It's how do we beat that, right? So that was a huge challenge. So initially we set up VPNs to all the customers. And with the VPNs, it's like local traffic on the LAN. Everything works great. It just wasn't scalable to take care of all the VPN traffic. So we're like, how do we model this like a Ring Central or some other, large company that Jive Communications that does this stuff where they just plug the phone in the wall? And that's when we found the SBC. So that's kind of the method that we got started with.
Yep. Okay. And then let's see, you wanted an all cloud solution and no CPE. So how did, what's the thought process
So,
here?
so we decided if we're going to be a cloud provider and offer, this software as a service basically, and become subject matter experts in 3CX and everything telco, we wanted everything in the cloud. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't want another box at the customer site that I had to manage, because 3CX does provide an SBC. There's some limitations to it. It works great, but we just didn't want to have another box somewhere we had to manage, or that to become a single point of failure.
Yep. Well, good. Skipping back here also too, I think there was you and I talked about the challenges with mobile and traveling users.
So that was another issue, right? So remote offices, mobile users, the 3CX app works great, but if I have an office and, have 10 users there, and I decide to use Stun or have to use a VPN, then I got to open up a bunch of ports in the firewall. And it was just, from our perspective, another management nightmare. So we're trying to sell affordable phone service that's plug and play. And that's kind of the direction that we were going with that.
Got it. And you wanted to virtualize it, and you set this up as a VMware environment. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so back in the day when I worked for a small company, probably everybody knows, called Insight out of Arizona. They're actually huge. I was a VBlock engineer there and helped design some of those VBlocks and VxRail systems. So as a data center architect, we decided on VMware because of the stability of the platform and that it was super scalable. So we ended up doing a vSAN platform, mm-hmm. Cisco Nexus backend, Palo firewalls on the front end, super fast storage, super fast processor, super fast memory, and that's what currently is in the colo now.
Awesome. Also, you looked at a couple of open source solutions, and where did that go?
Yeah, so while we're driving 3CX down the block and we're putting more and more extensions on, we're like, let's try to look for some SBC solutions. So we actually hired an engineer out of Canada who built an OpenSIPS SBC for us. And then he figured out about halfway through the project that, hey, this, 3CX is programmed specifically. It's, has its own SIP stack and stuff. And he's like, I just can't get OpenSIPS to work with it. So that's when we found TelcoBridges was our next stop about 2 weeks later.
Good. All right, well, let's move on and talk about your solution in a little bit more detail. So we're going to start with just, give us a quick overview of your solution. And I know we've got some network diagrams and a few slides, and then we get into actually logging into it, but maybe just give us a quick overview.
Yeah, so basically what we did was I believe it was last July, or it might have been June, I don't remember. I found the free SBC. We downloaded the product, got it installed, the free version. And of course, it works on VMware because it comes as an OVA template. So it's already completely set up for VMware. The actual cores of the processor, and this kind of I'll get just a hair into the weeds. The actual cores of the processor are dedicated CPU to the actual VMware virtual interface for the networking. So that was kind of cool. So we ended up deploying one. We did a POC. Then after about a week, we went ahead and purchased a box so we'd have everything turned on. And for the price point, it was like a no-brainer. So then once we got that done, kind of went through our proof of concept, we ended up then realizing, hey, we can use this for SIP trunks too. So we ended up deploying 2 SBCs and 2 SIP trunks. We call them class 4 switches just so we can tell the difference between which one's a SBC and which one handles the SIP traffic. And then we discovered label routing along the way. We actually have multiple providers, 2 providers on the backside. So that's kind of the solution we built out.
Awesome. You kind of answered this question with your testing evaluation experience must have gone well because you jumped in feet first. Yeah,
it went really well. And again, we're engineers, right? So for us to deploy another appliance in our environment, it's just, another day at the office. But after we got logged into the SBC, we kind of had to learn the terminology that TelcoBridges use, as far as NAPs and SIP domains and kind of the flow of traffic. But even as a novice, never looking at it before, within about 10 days, we had it up and running.
That's good.
So, and then we reached out to support. They helped us a lot with their proof of concept as well.
Good. And so you've gone live, and and tell me about bringing that up live.
Yeah. So in September, of course, we host a lot of schools. So we have 12 school districts in North Texas, 1 in California. Then we have some users in Chicago, a couple in Florida. And we decided, hey, let's take a pilot group of some of our smaller customers and we put them on, and then that went really well. And then we decided to bring a couple school districts on. And I think currently we have about 500 extensions. We've been migrating these extensions from VPNs and things of that nature, little by little, 1 or 2 accounts a month, just to make sure the platform's stable, and it has been, and to give our end users no disruption in service. We also have the city of Waxahachie, the city of Bowie, so their dispatch offices and police departments are running 3CX with TelcoBridges SBC and SIP trunks.
It kind of answered this question: is how many end customer extensions? I think it's around 500.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of jumped ahead. So
okay.
So by the end of July, we'll have 2,500 extensions running on there. So our plan is, once school is out in May, of course, we'll move all the school districts, so then the systems will be loaded up pretty good.
Yep. And you also asked for some enhancements, customizations, and you could share that story.
Yeah, so interesting story. So once we rolled it out, it's kind of funny about end users. As engineers, we'll sit down and go through every feature that we think is on the phone. And we think, oh, can we make a call to a ring group? Can we do an IVR? Can we transfer calls, all that kind of stuff. End users will find everything and anything that's wrong with the phone system. So we did find a couple of features. One was paging. We were having an issue with paging. Another one was a caller ID issue. But with the paging, it actually required that TelcoBridges went into the SIP stack and did some programming for us, and they did accommodate with us. It took about 2 weeks to turn that around. So they're really, really unique in a way that they will help change the code for your specific situation if need be, and of course, if you're a customer.
Yeah, very good. Well, let's then take another twist, which is you ended up with a customer with a robocall problem, and let's tell them about that story. I think this is a kind of a neat story.
Yeah, so one of our customers in a little town called Bowie, Texas. It's not Bowie, and Greg knows this. It's Bowie.
You taught me. Thank you.
Yeah. Think Bowie, not think Big Bowie, not. Yeah. One of our customers out there is a small company. They have about 20 extensions. They were getting inundated with robocalls. So they were getting about 200 robocalls a day to their 1-800 number. And of course, none of our other customers were experiencing this issue. So, we're really customer centric. So we were like, how do we solve this? We reached out again to Sean Archer at TelcoBridges, and he's like, hey, there's this product called ClearIP by TransNexus, and basically it sends a SIP header up to ClearIP, and based on reputation score and a lot of other algorithms, it helps block robocalls. So that's when we came back to our SIP trunk story, and as part of our routing, the first route is to ClearIP. So we send the SIP header to ClearIP. ClearIP either gives us a 503 and lets the call go through, or they give us a 603, and then that call is terminated. So it never makes it to the customer. So that was very successful, and we ended up stopping about 95% of the robocalls that were going across our network.
Great. Yep. And I think that you solved it for that one customer, and then you shared it with the rest of your customer base.
Yeah. So we ended up going, hey, let's just send all our traffic up there and see what happens. And we did. And come to find out, there was a lot of robocalls going on that not as many as 200 a day, but for a specific customer, but we were getting rid of about, combined with that one customer, around 250 to 300 robocalls a day using this solution. The issue is, so to make the solution work, you have to have something that's going to route that call up there first. So unless your SIP trunk provider will do it for you, this is the only other solution I found. Plus, this solution will eventually do stir shaken as well. And we're getting ready for stir shaken. So, the mandate that's coming out. So that was another big factor that weighed on that decision.
Yep. Awesome. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about your trunks. And you're kind of in a process of migrating between a couple of different operators when it comes to your SIP trunks. So maybe you could just tell that story about where you started and where you're going here.
Yeah, so when we started with 3CX, VoIP Innovations was a supported SIP trunk provider, and then they weren't. And for a long time, they were super, super stable. We just connected them and they worked. We had 2 trunks, one inbound, one outbound, and everything worked. And then over the course of last fall, when they came back into 3CX, before Segnoma bought them, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but they started sending a whole bunch of, we started getting call failures to our customers. So after doing a bunch of research, we found out that VoIP Innovations was sending us calls on multiple IP addresses. And when I mean multiple, I'm talking about like 15 or 20, conversational, tertiary, all kinds of IPs going on. So what we ended up doing is said, hey, this isn't stable and we need to migrate to bandwidth. So we still have some stuff on VoIP innovations for some smaller communities where bandwidth doesn't service, excuse me. And then we also use some stuff for them for fax. But what is cool about the solution is we can bring multiple SIP trunk providers into the system, and then based off our label routing and inbound and outbound, we can pick what route of which provider that we want to use.
Awesome. Yep. Well, and I think there's a couple of facets we've discovered that people use multiple providers. One of them is obviously reach different geographies, which you just had mentioned, different areas of the country or different countries. And then secondly, some can deliver inbound well and outbound not so well. So yeah, it's
Right.
not unusual to have to deal with multiple providers, and we run into it all the time. So
yeah, and we can do multiple providers into 3CX. That's not an issue, but it's kind of our approach to this. It's a holistic platform, right? So we can do a whole bunch of stuff with the SBC that we don't have to do inside of 3CX, which makes management a lot easier for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah.
All right, now for the good part. Demonstration. We get to take a peek at your live system here, but before we do that, it makes sense to explain the architecture. What are we going to be looking at here, Matt? And what's this diagram here?
Okay, so this is just a basic diagram of our solution, the way that we have it architected. So you can see that we have 3 boxes. Those are, by the way, there's actually 6 because those are all HA pairs. And HA does work on this guy. So if I kill a box, let's say I kill my ProSBC, the other one comes back up within, I believe, it's 15 seconds. And we've tested it. Phones that are registering at the time have to wait 15 seconds to re-register, but we don't lose connectivity. Mm-hmm. Then we have the ProSBC SIP trunk outbound and one inbound. So we're actually grabbing traffic from bandwidth and VoIP innovations on the inbound side, and then we're doing label routing. And what label routing is a really another cool feature. So we actually take a CSV file and we dump our customers' numbers in it. Then we create a route. Let's say it's to Jacksboro or Vernon or whoever. Based on the route, we generate that route. And as a call flows in, it makes a match in the CSV file, and then it routes it to the appropriate NAP, which is how that customer talks to us. Right. The nice thing about this, though, is that this works for us internally, but it can also work for 3CX on Azure. We've tested it there. Amazon Web Services, we've tested it there. As long as we can receive and send the traffic, then it works. So in this situation, you can see those 2 different trunks. You can see the 3CX server, so kind of everything to the right's in our data center. And then we have our remote offices or school district cities on the left. So we actually use one SBC just for SIP registrations of endpoints. And then we have 2 more SBCs that we use for actual trunking.
Got it. Okay. So, and then we're going to take a peek inside. You provided this VM map.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about VMware. This is kind of an architecture of our environment, except we have 4 nodes instead of 3. So on these 4 nodes, we have combined I call it horsepower. I like to kind of talk in layman's terms here. Tons of CPU. I think we have 296 cores. We have 2.5 terabytes of storage. I'm sorry, 25 terabytes of storage, mm-hmm. With a bunch of SSDs. And then we share all those nodes together and combine and then we have like 3.5 terabytes of RAM. So this is kind of what we've used as a platform that has tons and tons of horsepower. We thought about, we get a lot of questions. Why didn't you go to Amazon? Why didn't you go to Azure? Well, the reason is I don't know how much it's going to cost. I can do all the bandwidth calculations in the world and how much CPU is. And now if I'm a small office, that's one thing. And you know, I know my costs are going to be 20 to 50 bucks a month, but with hosting all these different 3CX instances, it was really, really hard to get a budgetary number together. So we were like, hey, we do this for a living. Let's just build our own. So that's what we did.
Got it. Okay.
So we think of it as a private cloud. It's kind of a niche cloud, highly secure, highly redundant. We have multiple circuits, and the whole environment is highly available.
Good, good. Okay, so we're going to switch to you sharing your desktop, and you're going to give us a peek inside. So let me stop the share here, and you can take over sharing, and you can let us take a peek at your desktop.
Okay. All right, so first I'm going to start over here with the 3CX system. Let me go ahead and try to hide this guy up here in just a second here. Hide floating meeting controls. Okay. So first, this is Quanta ISD. You can see they're kind of small, about 40 extensions. But this was one of the first customers we put on the ProSBC. And to configure this, I'm sure some of your customers or people on the phone have probably heard of NAPAS or using the 3CX SBC. It kind of works the same way. So if we drill down into an extension and go to phone provisioning, the provisioning method is 3CX SBC remote, and then we just put the FQDN of our session border controller in, which is F for free, sbc01.austin-it.com. Then if we come in here to phones, you can see that all these phones are registered on the SBC. One question I get a lot of is, hey, does all this stuff up here still work? Absolutely. We can still push out firmware, we can reboot and reprovision the phone. So there's no functionality lost from a perspective of 3CX. We still can do voicemail, presence still works. Busy lamp field still works. So all that stuff still works, okay? So this is just kind of showing you the provisioning method. This is our internal IP of that specific server that connects here. So if you were on a 3CX SBC, you would see something similar. So this is an actual, hopefully, nope, I'm not logged in.
Yep, yeah, Matt, your microphone, I think is getting tucked under something. So gotta make sure it's.
Can you hear me better?
There, that's better.
Okay, let me get logged back in here. Okay, so based on the diagram, if we go back over here and pull up this PowerPoint, can everybody hear me okay still?
Yep, you sound great.
Okay, so based on this diagram, this is the box I'm logging into right here. This is our registrar box. And you can see from an SBC perspective, if you're used to any open source stuff, you got to have some kind of third-party bolt-on tool to kind of look around and drive the thing. This comes out of the box just like this. So if I come up here and go to status, I can see the status of my SBC calls. My host here, you can see I have two hosts that are in an HA pair. They're Ethernet ports if they're up or down. One of the places we go a lot is into the SIP stack. So these SIP domains, we can actually, let's drill down into Quanta because they're here. So we can actually get a bunch of really good, valuable statistics here. And what, just an overview of what's going on in the system. And another cool thing is we can actually see all the phones that are registered on the system. How many registrations were set, if there's any errors. One big thing that I don't think we really touched on was security. So as part of TelcoBridges SBC, the security side is incredible. So number one, you don't really have to manage it because when you create an app, it automatically creates a rule here. So if we create an open NAP on the outside, and remember, this box is facing the internet. There is no firewall in front of this box. So we rely on the security of TelcoBridges to keep us safe, and it works quite well. So we have a layer of security from the SBC on the SIP trunk side, on the registration side, and then we have security built into 3CX. So if we're getting hit from the outside through the Palo into the 3CX registrations, we're kind of covered there. This guy covers, this ACL list covers all our customers. It covers all our NAPs that are exposed to the internet. So if I go to the entry status, you can kind of see in here, you know, what rules are dropped, what's allowed through. So you can see we get a bunch, just like everybody else in the industry. We have people pounding on our door all the time trying to break into stuff. So that's a pretty important part of this guy. So to get this actually up and running, and I'll make it really quick. You have NAPs and then you have SIP domains. Your NAP is a placeholder for an IP where stuff logs into, right? So if it's 3CX or if it's a EA-Link phone. Then from the NAP, we build SIP domains. The SIP domains control who can log into the system. So if I come in here to the NAPs, and we'll just come to our NAP here, you can see this is the actual proxy address of our 3CX server inside our data center. So we poll this 3CX server all the time to make sure he's still up. Here's where the magic comes in. So if we come down here to NAT translations, we can force the SBC, let's say that I'm in a remote office and I'm behind a NAT device. As that packet flows out of their network, we capture the public IP address and we force it to use that public IP. So that's how we beat NAT. So that's what they call remote NAT. So that's kind of the secret sauce there. Mm-hmm. And then we can define, like with 3CX, they use ports 9,000 through 1099. So we can define what ports we accept audio on. Then we have a transport server that's assigned to each NAP, whether it's the outside NAP or an inside NAP, if that kind of makes sense. Our routes, so you probably have a question like, all right, how do we do this in a multi-tenant? So like remote to American Hat Company, we identify by FQDN who's calling. So it can be extension 100 at AHCUS, but we just put at. And so we will accept traffic specifically from that FQDN from the open NAP. And then we remap that guy to the internal NAP. So that's how we can have multiple customers on one box. Now this works regardless if, like I said again, if this box is internal to us and we have private IPs internally, it also works just on the internet. So if I have two outside interfaces facing the internet, I can actually register phones, let's say from a remote office to AWS. So it's not just an internal guy. One of the really cool things that we love about this system is the call traces. So you can see here, register contact, and then we can kind of drill down into each NAP here. So let's say I just wanted to find a specific customer and concentrate on them. I can drill down into this customer and see what's going on. You can see here that it does do an alias. So when we remap, we send an alias to the endpoint instead of the real information that's coming from 3CX, okay? If we scroll down into this guy, we can also see that we have a ladder view of the exact SIP trace on each call leg. So coming inbound from 3CX to the SBC and then from the open NAP out. And you can also export this guy as a HTML file and send it to your favorite engineer to have a look at. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Now moving on here. Now, if you like the idea of command line, I just went ahead and logged in. This is our actual SIP server. Let me go in here to our, this is the actual SIP registrar. So you can see in real time what all the applications are doing on the back end. So if I need to do some kind of call trace or packet capture, I can do it from here. I can see what the applications are doing. If they're hairpinning, registrations that are flowing through the system. So we have the web GUI, but then if we're doing any kind of troubleshooting, we have the back end as well, okay? Let me go ahead and close this and we'll jump into the actual SIP trunk itself. I'm gonna have to log back in again.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So in back to the slide here, this is going to be this inbound trunk here. So this is this box here, the green box. So this is traffic flowing from VoIP Innovations or bandwidth. And again, it's basically the same setup. We call it a class 4 switch instead of an SBC because it's acting like a class 4 switch. But it's basically configured the same way. We have NAPs. You can see so every one of our customers we're using these SIP trunks in 3CX. So if I come back in here to 3CX and go to SIP trunks, you can see we have an AIT inbound and AIT outbound. So all traffic flows through this guy into 3CX, and all traffic flows out of this guy into this SIP server, okay? So you can kind of see all the users that we have, and we have some SIP trunks in here that are actually, their 3CX system is on premise. So not only can we use this for our stuff, we sell SIP trunks to customers, and then we use this class 4 switch to get those services to them through 3CX. Routing is just a hair different. So when we talk about routes, our first route goes to ClearIP, and this is where it checks to see if it's a robocall. And then you can see VoIP Innovations inbound and bandwidth inbound. And then when I was talking about label routing, these are all our label routes that we have that have a CSV file with a customer's number in it, again, so that we can identify which NAP to route that call to. So the logical part of this is pretty simple. And then of course call traces. So I'm going through the 3 places we spend most of our time. So you can see it hits ClearIP. It says 503 service unavailable, but that really means the call was good. And we can see duration in seconds, how long the call lasted. So if we drill down into this guy, ToolPack normal, we also get an MOS score of 4.3 and a network quality score. And that's based off G711, right? Mm-hmm. So when we were at the training, Luke goes, man, we never see MOS scores that are 100 all the time. And ours, for whatever reason, I guess it's our architecture, kind of the way that we deploy the system, we have really high MOS scores. So, so back again to tracing, we can actually see all the different invites, the 200 OK, the buy. So if we're having issues in here, we can drill down into each leg of the call and see what's wrong or what's going on.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's kind of the outbound trunk looks about the same. That's kind of my demo. If you guys want to see something more specific.
Yeah, trust me, there's questions piling up here. So we just got a couple more slides to go. So let me just take over here real quick. And let me just quick share. We got just a couple more slides to go, and then we'll switch back we'll go over to Q&A real quick here. So you mentioned your team, you and Brian's attended our training in Fort Lauderdale a few weeks back, and you found it helpful, I think is basically what you the results?
Yes, I did, except for being sick the whole week. It was very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were going to go to training in Montreal in October, and we just got too busy. But TelcoBridges put on a training down there. Small group of people. Luke, who's the head, I guess, is he like the head engineer? Or
Well, yeah, he's
RD?
our director of customer support, one of the founders. Yeah.
Okay. So Luke is just an awesome trainer. You get all the slide decks. What we took from it, because we kind of knew the nuts and bolts of the system, is we came away with a whole bunch of ways to troubleshoot that we didn't know about before, which helped us having to keep from submitting tickets to them, log trace levels, being able to look at the different applications and see what they're doing in real time. But yeah, the training was awesome. The support at TelcoBridges is off the chart. They respond very quickly to our emails. We send them packet captures. They go, yep, that doesn't look right. They'll either send us a method to fix it, or they'll go back in the back end and without even having to change the SIP stack, maybe do a bug fix or something, and then they'll release that to us.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Let's talk also about your future. Obviously you've accomplished quite a bit, so let's talk about your future. And you mentioned in our conversation you wanted to become a CLEC, and I'm sort of curious as to why and what's involved in that.
Yeah, so it costs some money to do it. Our main driver to become a CLEC is so that we can peer with wholesale SIP trunk providers, right? So we hold the DIDs in our switch, and then we just buy dial tone from people, or I say dial tone. We buy wholesale SIP service from some of the bigger guys like Level 3, BizTalk, VoIP Innovations, Bandwidth, whoever it is, and once we get to the CLEC level, then we'll be able to do a lot of cool routing, least cost routing. Routing, across the internet. Maybe we've had interest in some customers wanting to do some stuff in India, stuff like that. So,
and I also think there's a side effect. You'll also be able to then get a certificate for stir shaken, and you'll be able to sign your own calls at that point.
Yes, absolutely. That's another big benefit. So 3CX for us is a massive platform that has we built a whole business around, and we've done very, very well with it. Now, of course, we've really dove into the systems and we know it really well, but yeah, that was our main driver, is to be able to offer more services. We're always like, how can we improve? How can we get better? How can we introduce stuff to make the system better and the end user experience for the customer?
Yeah. That's a good segue into what are you planning going forward? You more than just offering phone service. I think you wanted to offer quite a bit.
Yeah. So we've been working on the system now for about 10 months, and we'd be able to offer consulting help to people that are interested in getting this set up as a proof of concept. And April 1st, we're still coming up with pricing. I've had some interest off talking to some of the 3CX guys on the forums. We're also going to host the SBC as a service. So you'll be a tenant on one of our SBCs, and then we'll charge you so much per concurrent call per year to host this SBC. So it'd be something you don't have to take care of. We support it and sell it. Work with TelcoBridges to get all the updates. We back the thing up. All you have to do is submit a ticket to onboard a customer.
Sure. Good. All right, and then I slipped this slide in here with your contact information, and I think that when folks get the recording or get a copy of the slide deck, this would be a help. But if anybody's interested, you can jot it down real quick here. But it's obvious Matt Ussery at Austen, and it's with an E in Austen-IT.com, and your telephone number. And as you said, you've got quite a business plan going forward, so that's awesome.
Yeah, and without 3CX, without TelcoBridges, we would have no business plan, right? We would still
Yeah.
be struggling. So, you know, and I'm kind of leaning on that, but it's the truth, right? So you got to have partners out there to help you to grow.
Right.
And this for us was not just some bolt on that was unsupported. It's been a really, really good experience.
Good. Good. Okay, just a couple more slides so we get to the Q&A. One, I just wanted to note, this is one of many of the software platforms that we work with and support as part of our Alliance program here at TelcoBridges. We have done a lot of projects with Asterisk. We asked our customers a lot with FreeSwitch. More recently, we just added NetSapiens as an Alliance partner and seeing that as a growing. Obviously, TransNexus, as you heard in the upper right-hand corner, is one of our partners, and it's been great at helping people deal with the robocall problem. And there's lots more on prosbc.com. We've got this video library, which is where this will end up being posted, this webinar. But our wiki and our forums also are really helpful places. And you can find all those if you go to prosbc.com and go to the support pull down, you'll see the wiki and the forums. And this is where a lot of the raw, how do you configure this, how do you set this up, will be stored for those that look to replicate what Matt's been doing. And last but not least, let's get to the Q&A. So we got gobs of questions here for you, Matt. So hopefully you got your seatbelt buckled, right?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. All right. So I think you kind of answered this one, which is, can this SBC be configured for redundancy? And you have all these set up as N+1, correct?
Yes, we do. So as long as you, you know, they were built for redundancy, right? So
right.
We did it as a redundant pair because of the application layer, but excuse me, we also have redundancy built into our VMware environment. So if we lost a host, you know, we have one that's this is more for an application layer, so we can upgrade, or if one goes down.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Next question is, do you use it? I think one of the 3CX SBCs in the infrastructure.
So we had a couple of customers when we first started doing 3CX on version 12 when it was multi-tenant, and back then they only had I believe it was a Windows version. Mm-hmm. So some of the limitations for us were the amount of BLFs and it being on a Windows box that required a license. And then we had some problems with some services. I've since heard that they're on Linux now, and you know the stuff is just is pretty awesome. For us, it's a choice again as a business model that we don't have something else at the customer site. Not knocking anything on the 3CX side. It's a great SBC for its specific use case.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. What about the unsupported trunk provider question here with SIP trunks?
So we were with VoIP Innovations when they were supported, and then we were with them when they weren't for years. So I guess that's a personal question or business decision that everybody has to make, because we know SIP so well. We don't call 3CX on SIP trunk issues. Mm-hmm. So for us, we don't really worry that it shows unsupported, as long as we know that we're capable of troubleshooting it and that it works. And we are working with 3CX to do interoperability tests on this solution here. So hopefully sometime in the future, the SBC itself or us as a company will be supported with a template.
Sure. Next question is, I thought 3CX required a public IP to function, and basically this SBC allows you to host 3CX without a public IP per PBX?
No, it still requires a public IP. Each customer in our environment has a static public IP. So it might be a question more of how does the SBC, you probably saw the 10.10.068, which is internal IP. That SBC actually faces the internet. So when it resolves to FSBC 01, it's a public IP. The only stuff that flows into 3CX besides the management console is going to be the web app and the mobile users.
Mm-hmm.
So those two groups do not come through the SBC.
Okay. So next one, well, let's see, they're asking about profit margins on this. Obviously, we don't need to take a peek inside your checkbook, but has this been profitable for you?
Extremely. I'll put it that way. The margins are really healthy and they're really good. And I found that the more resilient you make your infrastructure, even if it costs you some money, then you have happy customers. Our oldest customer is still Jacksboro. They've been with us for 5 years, and they just renewed a 3-year contract recently. It might have been longer, but good infrastructure makes happy customers that write checks. Absolutely.
Yep. Let's see. I'm going to say there's one about the 3CS extension configuration. I'm going to hold that one for a second. We can go back to that in a couple of minutes here, but I'm going to skip down to. I'm curious about dealing with the telecom tax compliance and filings.
Yeah, so since we're not a CLEC, so typically now once we become a CLEC, that changes the whole landscape. But for now, we have our SIP trunk providers do our taxes for us, right? So we're like, don't exempt us, and you just charge the taxes, and then charge us, and then we just pass that through to the customer. So the way that we do our hosted solution, it's all you can eat for one price, and we're completely compliant with all the taxes from the SIP trunk provider.
Yep.
So that's important. If you pick a SIP trunk provider, make sure they pull the taxes out.
Sure. So Nathan asks about ClearIP, whether it's on your inbound or outbound trunking. And I think even I can answer this one. This is on your inbound trunks.
All right, now we go.
Yeah, there we go. All right.
Yep.
And Radu asked a question about billing. What are you doing about billing? You and I think you and I chat about this. So this is
so the SBC does provide CDRs and a text and a radius server level, and we kind of have our own homegrown CDR system in house that we built to track CDRs off radius server. But our SIP trunk providers provide us with a good deal of information on CDRs.
Right.
So we haven't grown to the point where we got to be, it goes back to the taxes and all that. It's why you got to track that stuff.
Sure. And I just a note here real quick. I know we're almost to the top of the hour again, and we're going to lose some of you folks to whatever your next meeting is, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to keep going, and you can refer to the recording, which we'll send out tomorrow, and then you can skip ahead an hour into the recording. You can listen to the rest of the Q&A if you can't stick around. But meanwhile, we're going to keep going. There's another dozen questions here, so we'll keep going here.
Let's do it.
All right. So I think you showed this, but do you ever use on-site 3CX in combination, or you only sell in the cloud?
We do on-site installations. Like, if we don't turn down money, so somebody comes to us, like Snook ISP is a really good example. Brandon down there, we did a 3CX installation for him last summer. Mm-hmm. And you can make a good deal of money doing the installation and setting that guy up. And then while we're there, we provide him SIP trunks. So yes, we do on-premise systems. We prefer to host them, and here's why. So when you do an on-premise system, you got to have everything fine-tuned from the network to the firewall to everything. Voice feed. We typically go in and make sure that stuff is done. But we found that our system that's hosted in our data center is already fine-tuned for voice. We have QoS set up. We use distributed switches, NSX. It's purpose-built for hosting, and we feel like our customers mainly get a better experience. Like, we had one customer that put it on Hyper-V, and come to find out it was a net card driver, and it was on their SPI. So we kind of take some of that out of the equation, right? So now you don't have to worry about a server and all the switches and firewalls. You just need to plug a phone in the wall.
Sure. Okay. All right. Anything special required on the registration SBC for the configuration of the endpoints? And then that kind of relates to the question right after it that Dragos asked, which is, why 3 SBCs? Why not do it all in one?
Well, I'll answer the second question first because we're server guys and network guys. We segment everything, so it's just that's part of our background. Everything has its own box, right? The reason that we do an inbound and outbound trunk is because of routing, and after years of working with VoIP Innovations, and they did an inbound and an outbound, it just makes everything so much simpler. Okay. Let's see, anything special required for registration? No. So all you have to do is use whatever template you're using and put in the FSBC01 .austin-it.com, and that guy will register. And we don't use custom templates.
Okay. So question going back to the public IP questions, kind of dive a little deeper into that. Do you give one public IP to each 3 CX to provide the user access?
Absolutely.
To the web client, I guess, right?
Yes, we do. So when we negotiate our circuit contracts, we get 254 addresses with every circuit. So, so we'll address a new architecture in the future, but we grew so fast, that's the way that we had to do it.
Okay. Yep. Okay. And this might be a good time to go back to having you share your desktop and this next one. So, how did you get your call screen to show the MOS scores?
So that's an algorithm that's built into the SBC. Alan, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, it is.
They actually have on the wiki, if you go look at the wiki, they have a chart, and based on latency and what codec you're using, that's how the MOS score is developed. But if you want me to show you where it's at, I can in the SBC.
Yeah, why don't we do that real quick? Because there's another question I skipped over. I think we have to go back into your screen share.
Okay, you want to hand me over?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Let me stop sharing.
Okay, so let's see if we're still logged in here. Yeah, we are. So if we go back to, let's go to one of the trunks. It gets a little bit better. So you can see here, the MOS score is calculated at the end of the call at the buy. And you can see, under PCMU, there was no latency. And based on that G711 codec and that algorithm that they use that's on the wiki, Luke can probably give you a better understanding of exactly how it's calculated. But this is where you see it in the actual capture. So you can see no errors, transmit 257 packets, receive 262. Part of those were probably invites. And then it gives a score based on what you had dropped versus what you didn't, and what codec it was over a period of time with latency and stuff like that. Okay. What was the other question?
James asked about showing the 3CX extension configuration with
So if we come in here and go to phone provisioning, you'll see provisioning method. You can select LAN, SBC, or stun. You select SBC, and this is for the 3CX SBC, but it also works for our SBC. Then you just put that guy in there and click OK. And then as long as you put your provisioning URL on an option 66 on the other side, or paste it in the phone, it'll register.
Okay. All right. So Nathan asks about exporting logs from the SBC to an ELK stack.
I have no idea what an ELK stack is. So,
yeah. You got me
the
with
only
that
thing
one
I can
too.
think of ELK is maybe like You know, some elk jerky or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, no, I was thinking maybe an element management system, but I don't know. So maybe Nathan, if you're still on the call, if you want to fill us in what an elk stack is, maybe we'll take another stab at it when we get down the list here. So, you know what? The next question, Frederick asked a question about how does routing work with ClearIP?
Here, let me show you real quick.
Yeah, I
Let me
know,
just log.
it took me a couple of tries at this before I totally got it too, but once it's explained, it makes a lot of sense. So yeah.
They got that dirty multi-factor authentication turned on.
I know.
349. Okay, so you can see the amount of calls in here just as an overview. These are all rules and configuration stuff. Kind of where we spend most of our time is under the analytics. So if we go to SIP messages, we can actually see every packet or every header from every phone call is sent to that guy from the outbound side.
Well, the inbound, right? This calls come in.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Hold on. I clicked on the wrong thing. From the inbound side. Let me get this thing out of the way here. Hide floating meeting controls. Yes. Yeah, so you see this rule here, and we have it as priority 1, wait 100. So as a call comes in, it takes this route in just milliseconds, and it just sends the header. It doesn't send the call or anything else. It sends the header. When it comes up there, they read the header, and then it shows where it was coming from, what the number was, tons and tons of information in here, what the reputation score was, the fraud score, and it came from WAN 80. This is one of our IPs, and then it'll go up and check it. If it's good, if the call is good, then it sends what they call a 503. So 503 service unavailable is a good thing. That means it sent the call. So the call came in, it hit ClearIP, and then it sent it to the customer.
Right.
And those are,
you kind of think of it as that, you know, we route the call up to ClearIP, and if ClearIP says the call's good, what it's saying is route advance, meaning go to the next route in the route table, and the next route in the route table would be obviously into your 3CX systems. A bad, you know, invalid call would get a
603.
Yeah, 603, and the 603 then would cause the SBC to drop the call.
Yeah, so if you see here, if I filter by fraud detected, the amount of fraudulent calls that are coming in, there's a lot.
Yep.
And this is just this morning since 11 o'clock. So if we get a 603, now there's also something we didn't discuss about. We can also do what they call a divert to a CAPTCHA gateway. So let's say that it is a person calling, like an alarm company, but they get flagged for whatever. We have a CAPTCHA gateway server inside our environment that accepts DTMF tones. So when you call, if you get flagged and diverted, it'll say, this is a robocall blocking system. To continue the call, please enter 22 or 44 or whatever the number it throws out. Then it'll go ahead and send the call through. So it's like a CAPTCHA gateway, except it's not a visual one, it's an audible one.
Right. Okay. Well, you can just stay in there. We'll just leave that screen up for a second. So the Eddie asked the question of the leg of the call from the site phones to the SBC on your block diagram. How was this connected? Via proxy, direct SIP? Obviously, is there a security?
It's proxy.
issue?
So it's an outbound proxy. So in the Yealink phone itself, your SIP server will be the 3CX server, like ait.austen-it.com. Mm-hmm. The outbound proxy will be the SBC, which is this guy here.
Sure. Okay. All right, next question. This is a great one. Are you really getting all these SBC functions, including support from TelcoBridges, for $1 per session per year? And what did we hit you for any hidden fees?
No, that's what it costs. So they start at 500 concurrent calls or simultaneous calls a year per dollar. Then I believe they have two support options. And Alan will have to explain those, but we did pay for the 24/7 support. So that cost us a little bit more money.
Session.
Yeah. It was another dollar per session. So we did opt for the premium support.
Right.
And no, there was no hidden fees.
Yeah. The only thing is I made you come on this webinar, right? That was it.
Right.
So,
right.
No. And yeah, I think you also, you paid for some professional services to make some custom modification, but that was about
We did.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Okay. So Eddie asked about TLS for transport would need to be supported with 3CX. Currently doesn't support if that was the case. So
yeah, it does support TLS and SRTP if you have all the certificates configured. We haven't had a use case for it yet. We talked to our customers about it, and because we charge a little extra for configuring all that stuff, so they're like, nah, if somebody's going to listen to me, customer A, I don't really care. But if we ever get to a customer that requires it, we can meet those requirements with TLS.
Okay.
It does support it.
So Will asked an interesting question. So I don't know if you've dabbled with it at all yet, but would SD-WAN add any benefit to the uptime connectivity?
No. Now, it may provide the customer uptime and connectivity, but if you're using an SD-WAN solution, unless your router, or I'm sorry, your firewall or the solution supports no RTP anchoring, then if you lose a leg and it fails back, the session has to be reestablished. So there's really no benefit in SD-WAN for us unless you had a whole bunch of offices and you wanted to do QoS. So.
Right. Okay. One last question. There we go. We're at the end of the list here, which is Nathan provided what ELK stands for. It's Elasticsearch Log Stash in Kibana.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is, but I'm going to look it up because it sounds
delicious,
like I need it.
Whatever it is, because if it has Kibana in it.
Yeah, I like kibasa.
Anyway, yeah, we'll dig that up and we'll put something in the forums when we put all the Q&A in there. So, and then a bunch of people said thank you, and that's a great time for me to say to you, Matt, thanks so much for all the preparation, especially the extra time you spent here. I appreciate you. Not only sharing your story, but sharing a little bit of secret sauce as to how this all works. And if you don't mind ending your share, so I can take over for a quick second.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yep. And as we noted in the opening housekeeping, you will receive an email within the next day and a half or so, the links to the slides, including a recording of today's event. And please do feel free to share this with those of you in your network that might find it valuable. And we'd be happy to have them view it. We also, too, will put this in a video library and also on our YouTube channel, which is at youtube.com/TelcoBridges. Make sure you click on subscribe and the bell, and then you'll find out when these videos and recordings are all posted. And that's it from here, and I wish everyone a great day. So thanks again for listening.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Hey, thanks again for listening. There are links below, and don't forget to click on the subscribe and bell button to be notified when future events are posted.